From Lagos, the nation's commercial capital, this is the news at 10, live from Channels Television. Reporting tonight, Sulaiman Al-Leader.
Hello and welcome. Tonight, the Senate considers extending state of emergency in the Northeast, debates letter from the President. Speaker, House of Representatives Aminu Tambol drops presidential ambition, declares intention to run for governorship in Sokoto State. Nigerian Army reviews human rights record, trains its personnel on handling of detainees. And 4 Israelis killed as 2 armed men attack a West Jerusalem synagogue.
On Business News tonight, more state governors present 2015 appropriation bills to their state houses of assembly.
And on Sports News tonight, FIFA has asked Swiss prosecutors to investigate possible criminal offences committed by individuals involved in the 2018 and 2022 World Cup bidding processes.
We begin tonight with the rising insurgency in the Northeast as the Senate kick-starts a debate on the President's letter overextending the state of emergency in the 3 Northeast states of Adamawa, Borno and Yobe. At a session at the Upper House earlier today, members were sharply divided over the President's request, while some northern lawmakers who spoke to journalists after the Senate proceeding opposed the extension of emergency rule. Others agreed that since peace is yet to reign in the area, there is obvious need to grant the President's request. Our correspondent Linda Akigbe reports.
As soon as President Jonathan and the National Security Council approved the extension of emergency rule in Adamawa, Yobe and Borno states, it was just a matter of time before the President would ask the National Assembly to approve the extension of the emergency rule. And this it did at the resumption of the Senate's plenary.
It is important to state that despite concerted efforts by this administration to stem the tide of terrorism and insurgency in the affected states, the security challenges that necessitated the proclamation are yet to abate. Consequently, it has become imperative to request the approval of the Senate for extension of the period for the state of emergency for a further period of 6 months.
Federal lawmakers then went into a closed-door meeting to discuss the President's request. About 1.5 hours later, it was obvious that the Senate had not reached an agreement on the matter.
The Senate in a closed session met and discussed the letter from Mr. President on the extension of a state of emergency. We had a very extensive debate on it, and we will continue with the debate tomorrow.
But some lawmakers have already taken a position on whether to approve or not to approve an extension of emergency rule in the 3 troubled states.
I'm totally opposed to it. I believe that we should, after 18 months of the operation of the state of emergency, we should look at another avenue. Because if you have tried something for 18 months and you are not getting the results, each time you take a dosage of your medication, you get worse. It will be stupid of you to continue to take the same dosage.
As a representative of our people, my people are clearly against the extension because it restricts the civilian movement and allows the insurgents to move freely. The Constitution does not restrict the President from deploying troops without necessarily declaring state of emergency.
This is the 3rd time President Jonathan is asking for an extension of emergency rule in Adamawa, Yobe and Borno states. The last time the request was made, lawmakers did not readily approve the extension, but eventually acceded to the President's request after making some demands. The demands include proper kitting and equipping of troops deployed to tackle insurgency, as well as recruitment of screened and vetted youths into the armed forces. Federal lawmakers in the Senate would continue discussions on the extension of emergency rule on Wednesday. Linda Akibe, Channels Television News.
In the meantime, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, Aminu Tambuwal, has sent out notice to members of the House to reconvene on Thursday, November the 20th. The members are to debate a communication from the President, Dr. Goodluck Jonathan, requesting for the extension of the existing state of emergency in Adamawa, Borno and Yobe states. He explains that this decision to reconvene the session is in pursuant to the powers conferred on him by Section 305(2) of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria 1999, which requires him, quote, to forthwith convene or arrange a meeting of the House, and in order to treat the extension before the expiration of the current state of emergency in accordance with Section 305(6)(c) of the Constitution, end of quote. The members are expected to reconvene on Thursday the 20th of this month at the House of Representatives chambers. Now, the Speaker of the House of Representatives today announced his withdrawal from the presidential race on the platform of the All Progressives Congress. And the only option perhaps left for him now is to contest for the governorship of his state. Some members of the House had purchased the APC presidential nomination forms for Mr. Tambuwal, urging him to run for the highest office in the country. But the party leadership says it will prefer to have Mr. Tambuwal run for governorship instead. Until recently, Mr. Tambuwal was a member of the People's Democratic Party, but last month defected to the APC. Speaker Tambuwal announced his defection shortly after the House leader, Mulikat Akonde, of the People's Democratic Party, Oyo, moved a motion for the House to adjourn sitting till December the 3rd. Mr. Tambuwal became the Speaker of the House of Representatives on the platform of the PDP in 2011. Now, the federal government may have to change the current military strategy in tackling the nation's security challenges. This is according to some retired military officers at a gathering in Abuja, where they pointed out that issues of socio-economic will provide a long-term solution to insurgency. The speakers, including former Commonwealth Secretary General Chief Emeka Anyoko, also advocated building synergy between the armed forces and other government agencies, as well as the civil populace.
In the last 4 years, insecurity has become a major national challenge as never before, as armed terrorist groups continue to destroy lives and property in the northeast with minimal resistance in some cases. Organizers of this forum say this gathering will reanalyze best ways of dealing with insecurity.
It is expected that this retreat will make clear how the economy, poverty, unemployment, hunger, disease, political and personal security, violence and social exclusion interact and are critical for human development and well-being of citizens at all levels, and to articulate appropriate strategies that will ensure mainstreaming of human security in the national development process nations.
While efforts are directed towards improving military hardwares to fight insecurity, security experts say it will not solve the problem.
Religion is a contributory factor to insurgency or conflict. We must continue to affirm the need for all religions to treat one another with mutual respect.
The first line of security is for people to provide security for themselves. And therefore, if you have a community, not to stop the community having, like you see, community neighborhood watch, for example, in the cities. So if you have this sort of system at the local level, in the rural areas, at the border areas,
the military alone cannot make it. We should find a way forward. And what it is, as one of the presenters says today, everything now is bottom up. Human security. If you and your family are secured, if your basic needs are met, then you will find your neighborhood will be safe.
Renewed attacks by insurgents and counterattacks from the military in the northeast has not only left many dead, it has also displaced families. It is hoped that this gathering will recommend best strategies to handle the situations.
The former Minister of Information, Professor Jerry Garner, has also joined in the call for the military to devise a new strategy in its fight against terrorism in the northeast of Nigeria. Professor Garner, who's speaking at the forum in Abuja, suggested the mobilization of every Nigerian willing to sign up for the fight and put an end to the Boko Haram menace once and for all.
In every nation, when it comes to issue of security, there is no politics. It is something that is a common front. So I'd like to take the opportunity to appeal that all Nigerians should now resolutely mobilize so that together we can defeat terror. We have to. I also like to appeal to Mr. President and the armed forces that we may have to now change strategy, because it appears that the conventional warfare tactics of our forces is not working. We have to now mobilize the youth of our land, mobilize, if necessary, the reserves. Let there be a popular mobilization, and let there be a reaction by everyone in Nigeria willing to go out there and defeat these people. We have to. And if it requires that kind of mobilization, let the president declare it. You'll be amazed how the youth of Nigeria will arise. They did so during the Civil War, and they can do it again.
Well, still very much with security matters, the Nigerian Army has commenced training of its officers on how to ensure the rights of detainees and avoid human rights abuses in its war against terror. The Provost Marshal of the Nigerian Army Corps of the Military Police, Major General Patrick Akem, says the training for military police on detainee management will enhance the capacity of the Nigerian troops in armed conflict, human rights laws, and detainee operations. Our correspondent, Amaka Okafo, reports.
In the fight against insurgency, the Nigerian military has made several arrests of suspected members of the Boko Haram sect. Lately, some of the detainees have regained their freedom after they were cleared of any wrongdoing.
Within a radius of the incident.
This training for the Nigerian Army Corps of the Military Police is to update their knowledge on the international best practices in the engagement of non-state actors.
The trust, the Eastman Trust, is to teach our officers and soldiers several aspects of detainee operations. We are covering several aspects: detainee operations, international humanitarian law, otherwise known as the law of armed conflict, human rights law. We will delve into several aspects on care of detainees, care of prisoners. We want our troops to be able to meet international standards as we take on detainees, even as they come from Boko Haram.
Drawing from the experience of the United States' fight against terrorism in Afghanistan and Iraq, military officers from the United States Defense Institute of International Legal Studies warned that arbitrary arrest can lead to further radicalization of suspects. As such, the military needs to apply caution in its operations.
And it took us several years to realize that was wasteful, and it also grew the insurgency. Because we would capture many innocent young men who then would become radicalized in the detention facilities. One, because they were angry they were innocent and had been captured, and two, because they were mixed in with really bad guys and were being educated by them. So we quickly found that even though this is a human rights norm, it makes perfect military practical sense to be cautious about who you're throwing in the detention facility.
These officers are expected to learn how they can identify innocent Nigerians from terrorists as they work to improve the nation's security. Amaka Okafo, Channels Television News.
In part 2, after the break, victims of Bauchi blast battle for survival in hospital. That's in a moment. To stay with us.